First, let's start with this case. I, 26-year-old female, and my fiancé, 26-year-old male, are getting married this coming May. Last week, my parents and I were discussing plans for the wedding, and the conversation took a turn over my choice of wedding dress. Since I was a teenager, I've dreamed of wearing a pink wedding gown. Pink is the color that makes me feel the prettiest, and I believe it suits me much better than white. My mom has known about this preference for years, but always assumed it was a phase I'd outgrow once I actually got engaged. Well, here we are, and my feelings about a pink wedding dress haven't changed. When I brought it up during our discussion, my mom and I got into a heated argument. She insisted that wearing a pink dress would be childish and embarrassing. She's worried I'll regret my choice when I look back at the photos in the future. I argued that it's my special day, and if wearing pink makes me happy, that's what matters. My fiancé, James, doesn't care about the color of my dress and just wants me to be happy. I also pointed out that regret could go both ways. There's a real chance I'd regret not wearing the dress I've always wanted if I gave in now. My dad, while not as vocal as my mom, has started to take her side after seeing how upset she's gotten over this. Over the past week, the argument hasn't let up. My mom has even said they won't pay their half of the wedding dress cost if I choose pink. Initially, we had agreed to split the cost 50-50, but now she's using that as leverage to get me to wear white. My 30-year-old brother thinks this whole argument is ridiculous and told my mom that he'd be happy to split the cost with me if it came down to it. He also pointed out that they might regret making such a big deal about this more than I'd ever regret wearing a pink dress. Now I feel torn. On one hand, I'm hurt by how my parents reacted and the way they've turned this into such a dramatic issue over something I've dreamed about for so long. On the other hand, part of me is questioning whether the pink dress is worth all this conflict. I still want it, but I feel like a small decision is causing an unnecessarily huge drama. So, am I in the wrong for wanting to stick with my pink wedding dress despite my parents' objections? Let's start judging. You're not in the wrong. Your mom is overreacting. Get the dress that makes you happiest, in whatever color you want. If they refuse to pay for half, have a smaller wedding, or take your brother up on his offer. If having a smaller wedding means your parents' friends aren't invited, oh well. I hate gifts with strings attached. It's just manipulative, not a real gift. You're not in the wrong. Historically, people didn't wear white. Queen Victoria changed all that in the 19th century with her white gown, which was widely published and popularized the idea. Before 1840, brides often wore red, pink, blue, brown, or black. However, white didn't become the standard choice for brides until the mid-20th century. This was due to the rise of mass media, fashion magazines, and Hollywood films, which helped reinforce the association between white dresses and weddings. So, just remind her that this is your wedding, and you want to feel pretty in a gown of your choice. You're not in the wrong. My oldest and I have been discussing wedding dresses. One of the shops I recommended to her was Flora & Lane. I'm not sure they even have a totally white dress. It's your day. Your mom got to wear what she wanted on her wedding day. You get to wear what you want on yours. Don't have them put money towards it. Pay for it yourself. If you're old enough to get married, then you should be old enough to stand by your own decisions about your day. Next up, my husband, a 29-year-old man, and I, a 27-year-old woman, recently got married. We spent nearly a year planning the perfect wedding, carefully ironing out every detail. One of the first rules we set was that it would be a child-free wedding. We wanted an environment where we wouldn't have to worry about kids running around, crying, or getting into things. It was clearly stated on the invitations that no children under 14 were allowed. However, we made an exception for our own daughter, who is 11 months old. I wanted to hold her during the reception and photos before having a family friend take her home and wait for the babysitter to arrive. We originally considered asking my husband's close friend Darren's wife, Jessica, both names are fake, to drive our daughter, but she declined, saying she didn't want to drive. That was fine. We found someone else. On the wedding day, after reiterating the no kids rule multiple times, Jessica showed up with her 4-year-old son. I was taken aback, but tried to address it calmly. When I asked her about it, she said, "Since you're bringing your kid, it's okay if I bring mine." I was furious but tried to stay composed. I explained that this was a child-free wedding, and she needed to take her son home if she wanted to stay. She argued that it wasn't fair for me to bring my child while excluding hers. Meanwhile, her son was already climbing on things and running around unchecked. I gave her one last chance, telling her she could either take her son home and return or leave altogether. She rolled her eyes, sat down, and made no effort to manage her child. Eventually, her husband Darren stepped in and convinced her to leave with their son, but the disruption had already ruined the first part of my wedding. In the weeks following, I've been second-guessing myself. Some people have told me it was hypocritical to bring my daughter while enforcing the no kids rule for others. While my daughter wasn't staying for the entire event, I still wonder if I handled things poorly. Am I the problem here? Update 12/10/24. Wow, I wasn't expecting this to gain so much attention. Darren, Jessica's husband, found this post. He recognized it was about them and apologized on both of their behalf. However, Jessica was furious when she found out. She messaged me several times, and here's what she said. "Jessie, you are disgusting. Posting our private business online for everyone to see? Really? That honestly just proves how immature you are. Darren might be sorry, but I'm not. I have absolutely nothing to apologize for. I wanted my son to be there for you on your special day, and I thought you'd appreciate that. You're making your child a spoiled brat, excluding every other child but her. You using fake names just proves you're scared of us and didn't want us to see this. You're making my son seem like a monster for just being a child. I thought I was your best friend. If I was welcome, he should have been too. Honestly, at this point, I'd rather you just tell me to my face that you don't care about or respect me and my family." And the comments? Geez. You were clearly just fishing for pity. You knew Reddit would obviously back you up. Hi, Reddit. She also sent several unrelated and hurtful messages about personal topics, clearly trying to make me feel bad. I'm unsure how to respond. I still care about her, but I don't know if this relationship can be repaired. Final update 12/22/24. Hi again, Reddit. Here's the conclusion to this situation. I decided to cut contact with Jessica. I haven't blocked her, but only because we occasionally need to communicate for work-related reasons. I keep any conversations short and strictly professional. While she has since tried to apologize multiple times, I'm not willing to risk another incident like this. Thank you all for your advice and support. Let's start judging. I'm going to go with, you're not in the wrong. You never, ever assume your child is welcome to a wedding, especially a small child. Even if you know the happy couple is bringing a child of their own, it doesn't mean you can bring yours. Not to mention that your kid is 11 and hers is 4. Most 11-year-olds I know can be trusted to behave themselves for a while, whereas I know a lot of 4-year-olds that don't know what behave yourself means. That she doubled down and watched her kid run wild is a huge screw you. Appalling. Edit to add. I so misread. Op's child is 11 months, not 11 years. My point remains that you never assume your kid is welcome at a wedding. But oh, I had a good laugh at myself when I realized why OP wanted to hold their child in the pictures. You're not in the wrong. Reading the early part of your post, I figured that the baby would be there for at most an hour for picture-taking purposes. It's your wedding, so child-free me would be willing to cut you some slack on bringing the baby. An 11-month-old baby is a lot less active than a 4-year-old child, who appears to have no discipline at all. That you put a condition of not having children under 14 on the invitation that your friends accepted should have protected you from Jessica bringing her child. That's the invitation that she accepted. And she shouldn't have unilaterally decided to bring her child just because you were bringing your child to the wedding briefly for photos. You're not in the wrong. Bride and groom always have the right of exception to any rule they make for their wedding, especially for their own child that is being included in the ceremony. Next up, I'm a 26-year-old woman, and my boyfriend Alex, who is 28, and I have been together for 3 years. Alex's sister, Sally, is also 26. I'll refer to her as my sister-in-law, SIL, for simplicity. Alex and I recently moved in together, so we thought hosting Christmas would be a nice way to celebrate our new home as a housewarming. We invited Alex's parents, Sally, my parents, my brother's wife, and my 2 nieces. Sally's best friend Mary was also planning to stop by since her family lives far away. I've hung out with Mary a few times and was happy to have her over. However, Sally and I ended up having a ridiculous argument. Both of us have tattoos and piercings, though our styles differ. I used to dress more gothic and have several piercings, but a couple of years ago, I removed most of them. Recently, I decided to put my nose ring back in, a single piercing with a double ring look, which I thought suited me and boosted my self-esteem. Sally, on the other hand, has a more gothic style with multiple piercings, including 2 proper nose piercings, both with rings in one nostril. When I saw her, she immediately noticed my nose ring and asked if I'd gotten a new piercing. I told her no, explaining that it was just a double ring style on a single piercing. Out of nowhere, she became mean and condescending. She said, "Why are you wearing a fake double nose ring, being a poser?" I actually got it done properly. She emphasized the word actually and continued to make comments about how it didn't suit me. She also made a snide remark saying I should go back to being a pretend happy person. Her comments hurt my feelings deeply. It felt like she was gatekeeping a specific way of looking, and it wasn't the first time she'd done this. She's previously joked about how I dress in color instead of black and how I don't fit into the metal group. The dig about being a pretend happy person felt especially cruel, as I've struggled with severe depression and have only recently started feeling better about myself. Putting my nose ring back in was a small but meaningful step in boosting my confidence. When I got home, I told Alex what happened. He was upset and called Sally to confront her. She brushed it off as a joke, saying I was too weak to handle sarcasm and laughing about the situation. She didn't even attempt to apologize. Because of her behavior, I decided I didn't want Sally to come to Christmas if all she planned to do was mock me. Alex agreed and texted her, saying she was no longer welcome unless she could behave respectfully. Sally threw a massive tantrum, claiming we were targeting and excluding her. Despite all this, she still hasn't apologized. When I told Alex's parents about the situation, they took Sally's side. They said I should be the bigger person, and likely took her comments the wrong way. They also argued that Christmas is about family and that I'm creating unnecessary drama. On the other hand, my family supports me. They pointed out that inviting someone who cruelly mocked me and made a hurtful comment about my mental health isn't worth it. For context, I've only recently started feeling better after months of struggling with depression, so I can be a bit sensitive. Maybe I'm overreacting, but I don't think so. Additional notes: while Alex and I aren't married yet, I use terms like sister-in-law and in-laws for simplicity instead of repeatedly saying my boyfriend's sister or my boyfriend's parents. I thought this was obvious, but wanted to clarify. Am I overreacting by not wanting Sally at Christmas? Let's start judging. You're not in the wrong. If Sally wants to be mean, she can do it elsewhere. Your home should be a safe place. And if anyone's the poser here, it's her for acting like there's only one way to be goth or alternative. Wait till she discovers that as we get older, our bands have earlier shows, and some of us show up right after work wearing all kinds of not metal things. Band tees under cardigans and dress shirts, oh no. Sacre bleu, we're all poseurs now. Sally, no, this is 8th grade fashion policing. I believe it was Latrice Royale of Drag Race fame who said it first, but the 5 Gs, good God girl, get a grip. You're not in the wrong. I hope you have a wonderful drama-free Christmas, listen to whatever music you love, and rock whatever piercings and tattoos you want. So this person is 26, and she does not have more important things to focus on. Who gives a care? Wear whatever you want, however you want. This kind of gatekeeping may be cool when you're 15. At her age, it's just pathetic. She's got some issues and none of them are related to you just being you. Christmas is indeed about family. You know what else, though? It's not about catering to idiots. You're not in the wrong. Next up, during the COVID pandemic, my parents underwent a significant change after finding religion, and unfortunately, it hasn't been for the better. They've fallen into conspiracy theories, believing things like the Earth is flat, COVID was fake, space isn't real, and other similar ideas. For context, my younger sister was 6 or 7 years old when my parents left the province we're from and pulled her out of school. They returned to our hometown last year, but they never re-enrolled her in school because they now believe the education system is corrupt and teaches the devil's lies, like the earth being round. My sister is now 9 years old, cannot read, and has fully adopted these conspiracy beliefs. I, along with other concerned family members, have tried discussing this with my parents, but they dismiss our concerns, repeating that school is evil and full of lies. They don't seem to understand the damage they are doing to my sister's future by denying her an education and social development opportunities. I'm genuinely scared for my sister and her future. I haven't called yet, but I plan to contact Child and Family Services. In Canada, it's CAS, not CPS, because my parents don't seem to care, even when faced with threats of intervention. Update 1. I'll be calling Child and Family Services after Christmas and will provide an update afterward. Thank you all for the feedback and support. I really appreciate it. Let's start judging. You're not in the wrong. I'm not against homeschooling, as long as there's actually school happening. And it doesn't sound like there is in this case. This sounds like unschooling, which IMO is neglectful. However, keep in mind, depending where your parents are located, they very well could be within legal rights to unschool. I know a lot of states have little to no restrictions on what needs to be taught. Is there anything else that could warrant a CPS call just in case they are within legal rights? Never believe trust in newborn Christians. Never. They have a chronic deficiency of sanity and intelligence. You're not in the wrong. The Bible tells us to love each other and to cherish children. Jesus and the prophets are all about people learning and growing as people. There is nothing in Holy Scripture about the earth being flat or space not being real. No serious person believes these things. We love the science that is a gift from God. Stunting a child's learning deliberately is a sin, as is allowing them not to be able to read and learn the Scriptures for themselves. It is not a position of love. You alerted authorities to serious neglect on your parents' part, which was an act of love to your sibling.